My name is Gilbert. Literally, the next town over is Gilbert, South Carolina.
Nice.
Oh,
Nice.
that's right. You're from South
I like
Carolina.
South Carolina.
I was forced here against my will.
Gil moved from LA to South Carolina. Was that
Against his will, apparently, by force.
Well, it wasn't by choice. Duress. I was under duress.
I'm here with Gil, John, Lishy, and today we're talking where would you live and why? With friends who love to give each other the business.
Where are
It's like one of
you?
my me. I'm in Bangkok.
Huh?
Bangkok.
Thailand?
Yeah, they haven't moved it. It's still here.
Wow. I don't know. I thought maybe could have been like Bangkok, Mississippi.
Is there one? Is there like a Bangkok, Illinois? Because that would be
I was
so
gonna
cool.
say, in
That would be so
Illinois, there's
cool.
Cairo and Genoa and fucking all these like crazy, Memphis. So do they
You
speak
know.
Tagalog or something?
No, they speak Tagalog in the Philippines. They speak Thai here, remarkably, being Thailand and all. And they write the Thai alphabet, which isn't all that cool. It's not that pretty. And spoken Thai is really not pretty. It's like cats fucking. It's not fun. The weird one is Burmese. Burmese language looks like it's made from snowmen. It's just the weirdest one to look at. It's just so funny. Gil was talking about he lives in South Carolina. When I lived in the southeastern United States, it was sort of like, this is a really nice place if it wasn't for the people and the culture. But it's real pretty, And yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for, the Dollar General and all of that.
What brought you to Thailand? Is it easy to live and
Crazy easy, crazy easy, crazy cheap. The best people in the world. Like they call this LOS, LOS, Land of Smiles. If you're in a small town in South Carolina and you're walking down the street and there's somebody walking past you the other way, if you don't smile and say hi or good morning or at least nod, you're an a-hole, right?
yeah.
And that's what here is, And again, people here are just super, super kind. They have a spiritual underpinning that the way they get to go to heaven is to be nice to other people. So they do.
Is it Buddhism?
Yes, 92.5%. I looked it up this morning.
Do you work
Sorry.
from home for a company? Is that why you
Now I don't work at all, man. I'm going to be 69 in a couple of months. When I came here, the concept was retiring. My dad passed away in 2008, 2009, and came into a bit of money. So I decided that I hated my work career, my life. I hated tech. I hated sales. And I hated California. I had worked in Indonesia in the late 70s and early 80s for about 7 years. And so I always knew I wanted to come back to this part of the world.
Well, let me just ask you one quick question in
Sure.
terms of the surrounding countries. Is Singapore the only place that's friendly besides Thailand?
God, no. Singapore's just Singapore. And besides, I don't think of Singapore as particularly friendly. Depends on who you're talking about. But Singapore is a city state and it consists of three different ethnicities, right? There's the ethnic Chinese who own everything, right? And control everything. Then there's the Tamili Indians who were left behind by the British. They're basically a merchant class. And then there's the Malays, right? Malaysia is literally over the bridge. The Indians are the only ones that are friendly, and they're just friendly because they're merchants. They want your freaking money.
So you got Cambodia, Vietnam.
Cambodians
Oh,
are so sweet, but you can't live there, right? I mean, it's very, very, very much the developing world. But no,
oh,
man,
I see.
Cambodians, I married one. Cambodians are like the best, and they're fun loving. That's how I divide Asia, is right? Southeast Asia, where they're fun loving, and Asia, where they're sure as hell not. I lived in China too, and they're not fun loving.
How about Japan?
The craziest place in the world. If you've ever seen Japanese porn, you know that they pixelate the genitals. So the way that manga creators, the guys who do the comic book, got around it was they didn't show men penetrating women; they showed tentacles. These monsters with
Ah,
many tentacles.
that makes sense. So if they can't show
Sure.
that, then they just show something else.
If you want to understand Japanese culture, Google crazy bento boxes, and you will understand everything you need to understand about Japan.
So they show tentacles instead of genitals, but I'm wondering like fruits and vegetables,
No, never.
jeans.
No, usually it's bondage and humiliation, and there's some bodily fluids. And Japanese porn is, yeah, it's not worth the price of admission.
Is it a nice place to live?
Not if you're not Japanese, boy. I'll tell you what. If both of your parents are not Japanese, Japan is not a nice place to live.
My
Wow.
buddy
Right.
lived there for 3 years in Tokyo, and he fell in love with it. But
Oh yeah. It's an
uh,
amazing place
fell
to
in
live.
love with it so much. He lives in LA now, so I mean, the proof's
Well,
in
that's the
pudding.
problem. The problem, I have a buddy and he lives in northern Japan. He's a Brit. He's been there for 45 years. He married a local girl who's daughter of the guy who's the biggest businessman in this little town. He speaks perfect Japanese. He reads and writes Japanese, which is not simple since they use 3 different writing systems, right? He's been working as a translator for about 35 years. He has 2 children who were raised in that same small town. And yet nobody in that town accepts him as part of the community. Nobody in his wife's family accepts him. They still don't forgive her for marrying a gaijin foreigner. Culturally, Japan is a very, very difficult place to live,
But
right?
to
It's
visit,
my
it'll
favorite
be
place on earth to go. It's my favorite place on earth to go. But I never ever confused myself that I could have fit in. And
I've
if I'd
always
married a
wanted to
Japanese
go.
wife, we'd be living here or LA or someplace.
But they accept you in Thailand if you're a.
They love you because orang putih, the Indonesian word for us is orang putih, which literally means white person. They treasure and value white colored skin, light colored skin. So for a Thai woman, it's a golden ticket to get knocked up by a white guy, economically as well. So all the advertising anywhere in Asia, Japan, China, Thailand, you name it, it's all these very, very super light skinned people. And the number one cosmetic in Thailand is Johnson's baby powder.
I was
Wow.
gonna say either that or it's like spackle. Man, if I could live anywhere money is no object, I would be
Right.
like Upper West Side, I think it's called.
You're saying you want to live in Manhattan?
I love Manhattan. What about you, Boney? Money's no object.
I just want to go home. LA.
We're in LA because, yeah, we're from there.
I really just like my precious Burbank area where I used to live.
Burbank's nice.
Because when I was a kid, the Hollywood Strip was disgusting.
Yeah,
Like,
really
there
bad.
was- there
Like
was-
Times Square when I was a kid. I don't know what the draw is to a place like New York because the word I use primarily to describe New York is inconvenient.
The
You know,
word I
everything is.
The word I use to describe New York is delicious. Like I like going to
Oh,
New
yeah,
York
yeah.
to eat food there.
Well,
And
I grew up there, dude. So when I go home, it's bagel, pizza, hot dog, pastrami, rinse, repeat.
What about you, Gil? Where would you live? Money's no object.
Yeah, we haven't heard from Gil.
Well, I think I'd have to travel a little bit. It probably wouldn't be here. I mean, I'm from New York too. I can't say I'm a big fan. It's too
Mm.
smelly.
Everybody's
having,
sad in New
having
York.
like they're all sick looking and everything, and
They're
like
all
I can
sad.
imagine
They're always
having
unhappy.
a 10 million, $25 million apartment, and then you know what I mean, have to walk around that shithole. LA, where I just came from, I really liked. I was there for 30 years. But I ended up in my last place was in Santa Clarita, Valencia, and I thought that was pretty great. There was a lot of things to do very close by, but it's hardly a dream. Part of me wants to be like in the mountains, but I also know that I like things to be a little easier than having to travel 30 minutes for a
So
yogurt.
you're not there for 30 years. You're just there in fantasy, so you can change it 5 minutes from now too. So
How about like a giant, like a blimp?
great. You're in
Where
Zeppelin.
you're just floating all around.
Early 2009 when my dad died till 2010 when I moved. I would go back and forth between getting my degree, selling off some of his properties, traveling to Asia in between semesters to pick out where I wanted to live. Ultimately, like as I started to talk to Gil about, I decided on Thailand. But my question would be, what would be your criteria? What do you think about is most important? Because like you guys have been talking about like accessibility to food or something. Would that really drive you?
It is food related too, because I guess one of the places that I thought of was the French countryside, where you just like you have a nice little cottage up on a hill, maybe you got a couple of animals or something,
Right.
and then you kind of bicycle into town. You know what I mean? You eat a loaf of bread and you bicycle home. You know what I mean? Cheese, they got the best cheese.
Yeah.
And then you could kind of eat like a king. They got everything great, desserts, everything.
I mean, I love the French countryside, but I would never, ever, ever live in France. It's kind of like Japan. If you're an American living in France, you got to walk around with your armor on like all the time. And if your French is not flawless, you need to shut the fuck up.
Too hard.
Yes, it's very, very difficult, especially now, but very, very difficult, I think,
Yeah, I
as a
probably
place to
couldn't live
live.
in a non-English speaking country at this point in my life.
Because I came here to Michigan in a tiny little lake town, I know what I don't want. I don't want to have terrible weather. I lived in LA for so long, I forgot what seasons were. Here's how I want to know the seasons are changing. There's always a woman named Carol who is in the office. Her name is always Carol. She has a Christmas tree on her desk when it's Christmas. She has a pumpkin out when it's Halloween. And that's how you know whatever time of year. Access to food and climate.
Maybe somewhere in California, now that you mention it. And California is such a great place. And even if you went up north somewhere, you know what I mean?
Money's no object. I'm somewhere between San Luis Obispo and Carmel. I would say Bangkok, it's architecturally as striking as New York because of the canal system here and the Chao Phraya River and everything else here. Bangkok doesn't look like any place else. Climate cost of living here is a third, comparable to what you're paying in the boonies, no pun intended, Boney, of Michigan, but probably not. It's probably still cheaper here in terms of cost of food, cost of transportation, all of those things, cost of infrastructure.
With LA and New York and San Francisco, I would say London and probably Tokyo, although I've never been there, but it's so expensive to live in these places that you have to hustle all the time. Like
Exactly.
You can't stop. If you like a fish, if you stop swimming, you die. So you don't have the time to be nice. Like in LA, we never talk to each other. Like here in Michigan, all they do is talk to each other. Like I don't even know what that is.
Here too, man.
Right.
Like they'll tell you your life story. If you cross someone's path and you just say, hello, that's a 10-minute conversation.
Yeah, it turns into.
I heard a Southern put down said, you ask him what time it is and he'll tell you how to build a watch.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. They tell you about
Yeah.
their grandfather's watch and how he built it, and then and now
Yeah.
now
That's
here's what it's
true.
doing. Like, what about the shopkeepers and stuff, Boney? What about the delivery folk?
Well, like that's the other thing that's super different here than in LA. Like in LA, again, it's so expensive. Everyone is hustling. So in LA, if I say I need 5 people I want to have a house and I want to change my roof, you hang up the phone and there's 5 guys on your roof like immediately. But here, I paid $15,000 for a new roof,
Mhm.
and it took them 4 months to even come and look at it.
Yeah, here too, man.
And another 4 months for them to actually do it. So it took 8 months. I was in LA at the time, so I didn't really care. But I cared. I was like, Jesus, like everything here is so slow. Like
Very slow over here, dude.
if I call a handyman, either they don't show up, which is mostly what happens. Like they'll pick up
Totally.
the phone and it just won't show up. Like in LA, they're at your door when you hang up the phone because it's
Yeah,
so
here too.
expensive. They have to hustle, right? It isn't because they love you, but I'm just used to that. So this slower pace of life is kind of annoying, and it is different, right? So, but that's like one of the things that, like, cultural shock, if you will, of moving or choosing a place to live, access to things, like access to people to come and help you if you need it. Like I'm disabled, so my mobility is not fantastic. So I have things I need, and I
Yeah.
can't get them. And there's no Uber here, and I don't have a car, right? So like in a bigger city, I wouldn't have that problem. Like
Exactly.
in LA, when I right after I had my surgery, I couldn't walk for like a year, and I Ubered everywhere. But like every time I open the Uber app, there's like 15 cars. Like you see them all like cockroaches. But here, there's no Uber at all.
I like the idea of walkable cities. I like public transportation. I like the idea of the subway, which is like a Joseph Campbell journey. You get to this really scary place with all these really weird people, and then you get into the dark, and it's loud and it's shaking and
Crazy.
Cool.
And
That's
then
here, and it's even more that way in
you
Tokyo.
come out and you're at Hollywood and Highland where they shoot the Oscars and the theater and the Walk of Fame and stuff. It's a Joseph Campbell experience in a microcosm. I love that shit.
So I have tallied our votes, and feel free to run in the comments section who you think is never right in this episode.
I like that, actually. That looks pretty good, dude.
It looks Christmassy.
Yeah. Well, it also kind of looks ethereal. I liked it.
That's Christmas decoration.
Yeah, you do look like you're about to blow up Alderaan if you bring your arm down and
Oh, they were asking for it. They had it coming.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you want more content from the Never Right podcast.